It's baking day. We are making carrot cake and I am so excited. I don't think I could wax poetic enough about my love of carrot cake. You feel good eating it because you're getting loads of carrots, but they happen to be swept up in a gorgeous, light, tender batter of brown sugar and, in this case, gluten-free, oat flour and almond flour, with just a beautiful array of spices coming in, crunchy walnuts, and then we're doing a brown sugar buttercream frosting over top that is truly to die for. Another amazing thing about this cake is it's a one-layer cake, so we're not messing around with like multiple layers and stacking cakes or anything like that. It is simple, a lovely thing to make if you feel like having just a little snacking cake out for yourself, for your loved ones, for whomever it might be stopping by, popping over this summer. And something I'm extra excited about is I have done away with all the things that I historically do not love about carrot cake. Raisins, you have no business in my carrot cake. Cloves, also no business in my carrot cake. I'm not looking for a ginger snap carrot cake. I want pure essence of carrot and sweet richness from the frosting, and I want just a little bit of cardamom and cinnamon and maybe some nutmeg to amp it up and give me that warming experience. Extra nuts, walnuts in our case, for crunchy, tender deliciousness and richness. And that's it. We're gonna keep it simple but elegant. Let's get started by toasting up some walnuts. Like I said, I like extra walnuts in this blend. I find that they add so much lovely texture, a bit of richness, and they are delicious, obviously. So that's a half cup. I think I want even more. I'm gonna go for the full cup, the full Monty. We're doing it. Into a 350-degree oven, just on a dry sheet tray like I have here. These are gonna go, I'm gonna tell you you're safe for 5 minutes. And then every minute after 5 minutes, you should check on them because walnuts are delicate and tender. They burn very quickly. We are just looking for a lovely roasty, toasty nut smell wafting from the oven, but don't let them burn. While those are toasting away, let's start grating our beautiful bounty of carrots. Ultimately, we want like a cup and a half of grated carrots. We'll just peel these and then grate them on the large hole of a box grater. All right, let's grate. This is you earning your dessert. If you want to, you can work laterally. Sometimes that is better. You got to really feel out what your carrots are doing. Mine are super thin, so they're not really giving me a lot of support to push against. But we will get through it and we'll make it work. And by the way, if you have a food processor that you prefer to do this on, you are more than welcome to. And then, after you have a lovely arm workout, you will get this. Wow. So gratifying. Set those aside because we're gonna fold those in at the end after we've mixed together the dry and wet ingredients. And let's check on our walnuts. This is perfect. See, they're getting nice and golden, a little bit deepening in the color, and the smell is perfect. Toasty walnut, not burnt. We're gonna let them cool and then we're gonna chop them. Okay, let's get started with the dry mix. So we have almond flour here, lovely, light, airy, gives a lot of moisture to this cake. Also happens to be gluten-free. So that's 3/4 of a cup of almond flour and 3/4 of a cup of oat flour, just to give it a little more body and sort of dense loveliness that we like. Whisk these together with 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. And the combination of these two leaveners is gonna help us really get that airiness in the cake and give it that texture that we're gonna love, ensuring it's not too dense because the carrots obviously bring a lot of moisture of their own and some heaviness. And we still wanna make sure that we're left with something that tastes like cake and not bread. So I have the 1/2 teaspoon of each in our dry mix along with a full teaspoon of kosher salt, and all of our spices. So we have some nutmeg, but then the predominance is cinnamon and cardamom, my queen of spices. We know all about her. Into our dry mix. And we'll just whisk this together, make sure it's all incorporated, and then set that off to the side. And we will work on our wet blend, which is going to be 3 eggs, some sugar, and melted butter. Melted butter. If you don't feel like using melted butter, melted coconut oil works great. So I melted 4 tablespoons of butter, 1/4 cup, and then let it cool. And it looks like that. Go ahead and grab your hand mixer or a stand mixer if you prefer to use that. What we're gonna do is beat together the butter and the sugar couple minutes just until it gets nice and lightly golden colored, just a lighter brown. The reason we're going to do that is we want to build a little air into this mix so that it has that chance to really rise and get that tender lightness when it's baking. It's also the reason we're going to take our time and beat the eggs in one by one, again, to build out that structure that we want this cake to have. So it's not too dense. It doesn't just collapse and fall into a little flat cake. These aren't pancakes. It's not bread. It's carrot cake. Into our bowl, let's go ahead and add our melted and now cooled butter, along with any little milk solids that have escaped to the bottom of the pan. Those bring so much flavor. It's what gives butter a much more rich and nuanced flavor than just a neutral oil. And some brown sugar. And this cake itself doesn't need a ton of sweetness because carrots give some sweetness themselves, but also the glossing of brown sugar buttercream on top is beyond. Once it looks like this, nice and lovely light brown, the brown sugar has started to dissolve into the butter. We are going to scrape down the bowl and start adding our eggs one at a time. And this always feels like a step that you think you can skip, but don't. You do want to spend the second it takes to scrape down your bowl in between adding the eggs because you want all of that egg to get incorporated. And sometimes the white can get stuck on the edge of the bowl. You might miss it if you don't take the time to lovingly, patiently do your baking process. Okay, one egg. Give it a quick whisk in, just like 15-20 seconds here. Look at how pretty already the texture has changed so dramatically. It's smooth and gorgeous. So it goes from being sort of this stiffer, thicker look to being this lovely running toffee color situation. Scrape down the bowl, add our second egg. These are room temperature eggs, by the way. We don't want to use cold eggs because they might seize up the butter. All right, that's what it looks like. And now to that wet blend, we're gonna add a half cup of applesauce. Gives a nice little bit of moisture into our mix. And of course, gotta have a little vanilla extract. I'm gonna go for a teaspoon or two. Vanilla is not the primary flavoring here, but it does just add a little bit of nuance that we like. Blend this up. And that is the end of the mixing. Before I combine the wet and dry, I am gonna prepare our cake tin. To prepare our cake tin, remember this is a single layer cake. We're not messing around with lots of different elements here. So all we're gonna do is take, convenient. I have just enough melted butter still kind of in the base of this melting pot, but if you don't, just grab a little extra pat of softened butter and go ahead and grease the bottom of your pan. And definitely don't skimp on the edges. Those are the places that can get a little tricky when you want to lift your cake out. But we are also going to give ourselves the insurance policy of a parchment paper liner on the base. So I'm gonna say the words and we're gonna make them true. Fail proof. Okay, nice and greased. Get some parchment paper and let's review how to cut a perfect circle out of parchment paper. Because let me tell you, in culinary school, when I learned this trick, I literally mouth on floor, completely in awe of the crafting that I was capable of. So you take off, just your regular square of parchment paper, fold it in half. And when I say I'm in awe of my own crafting skills, you will quickly see it's because I have none. So if I can do this, you can do this too. Fold it in half again. So now we have our corner, which is here, which is where the two halves were folded and there's a solid piece of paper underneath. Fold it, working from that corner, fold the two corners together again. And then holding onto that corner. Do not let this corner leave your finger so that you don't forget where it is. Fold the corner to corner together again. And now what you are left with is this lovely cone of paper. And you're just gonna measure from the tip to the center of your cake tin, which is roughly there. Snip across. Are you ready for this magic show? Behold, Houdini. It's the coolest thing ever. I'm obsessed. And it should fit perfectly into the round of your tin. If you were slightly off in where you snip, you either will just ram it in, which is fine, or you may just want to quickly kind of fold it back up together into its little happy cone and just snip off a little bit extra. And now, a perfect fit. Our pan is perfect and prepared. Our dry will go into wet next, and then we will bake ourselves a lovely carrot cake. Oh wait, you know what we didn't do? Chop the walnuts. Let's do that. We have our cup of toasted and now cooled walnuts. I'm just going to give them a rough chop so that they distribute evenly throughout the batter, and you get lovely little crunchy pops of tender, nutty walnuts in every bite. Okay, walnuts are ready. Let's put everything together and get onto the frosting. Dry mix here, wet going in. And don't be alarmed by the slightly separated look of this mix. That is what the applesauce creates, but all will be dissolved in our batter. And I don't want to overmix my batter at this point. I want to leave as much of the airiness from the wet mix as possible locked in. So just until it's just combined, like here. Then I'm going to fold in a cup and a half of carrots, which in my book is about 2 full handfuls, with just a little pinch later. And also all of our gorgeous cup of toasted, roasted walnuts. Into our prepared cake pan. And just give it a little smooth down so that it's nice and even. And this is going to go into our 350 degree oven, 35 to 40 minutes. We will test it to see when the center is set. You'll also smell it. Use all your senses. Enjoy being tempted by the smell of what you are soon going to eat. And let's make some frosting. Okay, so now let's start with our brown sugar sort of caramel that we're making, which will be the base of our brown sugar buttercream frosting. First thing I want to do is add a half a stick of butter. This is unsalted butter, 4 tablespoons, and then 6 tablespoons of light brown sugar. So just pressing it into this tablespoon. Measure 2, 5, and 6. Perfect. 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. 1 and 2. And because I used unsalted butter, but I still want this to have plenty of flavor, just a tiny pinch of salt. And now we're going to bring this over a medium-low flame. Rivulets of melting butter into the cream. And just start to help this brown sugar blend and dissipate into, how quickly it becomes a luscious caramel sauce. Now, here's the thing. We want to start to bring this up over like a medium-high heat to a low boil. And I'm going to be whisking it constantly, 3 to 4 minutes. It will become thickened and glossy, sort of like a butterscotch. So if you see that it is getting too hot, particularly around the edges, we're not looking to scald the cream. We don't want the sugar to crystallize. Just take it off the heat. This is the easiest way to let it cool down and get that heat evenly distributed again. And then once it looks smooth and lovely again, then it goes back over the flame. Okay. So once it's lovely and smooth and you can see all these bubbles forming on the surface, take it off the heat. It'll be a little bit runny and butterscotch colored like this. The way you can also test if it's done, take a spoon and just run it through the liquid. You want to just make sure that the sugar is fully dissolved, which you can see it is here. A lovely smooth mixture that holds its form and is very smooth. Oh. Put that on ice cream, over pie, by itself. Okay, let that cool entirely. You can speed up the cooling process by tucking it in the fridge and just give it a good stir every 5 minutes or so as it's cooling so it cools evenly. And then we will build out the rest of our buttercream for our glorious carrot cake. Guys, there is a warm, delicious cinnamon and cardamom fragrance happening in my life right now. The cake has been baking for about 38 minutes. It is wonderful setup. No movement here at the center, which is what we're testing for to make sure that it will be fully cooked through. I love all this nutty texture on top, the little cracks, letting that steam escape so we get a light, lovely, tender cake that I cannot wait to eat. Okay, so I let the cake hang out for like 10 minutes just to set up in the tin. I'm gonna turn it out and let it cool completely. Voila. That is the power of having spent our time doing our little crafting project. Are you ready for the most gratifying thing that might ever happen in baking? Behold your cake, your carrot cake. I'm gonna do one thing, which is I actually want to frost the kind of nubbly, gorgeous side. So I'm going to flip it to cool so that the top is back here. Preference, but a good idea. Okay, time to finish up this frosting. Our lovely little butterscotch sauce is completely cooled, and that is luxury right there. Oh my gosh. Wow. You don't need to buy caramel sauce ever again. Now you know how to make it. And to this butter and brown sugar and heavy cream blend, we are going to beat in 2 cups of powdered sugar, one at a time, till we get light and airy perfection. Not an essential step, but I do sift the cups of powdered sugar in just to make sure there's no lumps and it's as aerated as possible. So I am gonna scrape down my bowl and add a tablespoon of heavy cream, and then I'll keep beating this cup of powdered sugar a little bit longer before adding the next one in, really trying to develop that light, fluffy buttercream texture we're after. 1 tablespoon of heavy cream. Let's go. 2nd cup of powdered sugar going in now. So I added the 2nd cup of powdered sugar and a 2nd tablespoon of heavy cream, and the consistency is looking marvelous. I am gonna add just a little bit of vanilla extract now, just to round out that great vanilla flavor here with the brown sugar. More like caramel, toasted vanilla. Just a splash of your vanilla extract. One more mix and we will be ready to go. Magnificent. Look at this, guys. Okay, let's dress up our cake. Our carrot cake is fully cooled. Our brown sugar buttercream frosting is lovely and luscious, and all that's left is to frost, which, as you can probably imagine from the rest of this recipe, does not need to be fussy or precise. It can just be a swoop of delightful frosting, which, by the way, I just have to tell you, for how simple this frosting recipe is, the flavor there is like wild. It's so good. That brown sugar, it tastes, you know what it tastes like? Not like fudge. I was like, what does this taste like that I love? Cookie dough. This tastes like the beginnings of chocolate chip cookie dough. And we're just going to push it around the edges of this beautiful carrot cake with walnuts and cardamom and cinnamon. We're gonna stop when we're ahead and not work harder than we have to and enjoy a few little swoops here and there just for fun, because why not? And there we have it, my friends. The perfect carrot cake for summer or anytime. If you wanted to get fussy, you could toast some more walnuts and throw them on top, but don't need it, don't want it. Don't care about it. Look at this. Come in closer. I'll wait. Moment of truth. Let's break in for a slice. That is a choice little number right there. Now just imagine yourself. It's Saturday. You have your cup of coffee. You think, what the heck, it's Saturday. I should have cake for breakfast. And you have carrot cake with brown sugar frosting ready to go. Best Saturday ever. First of all, take a look at this cake texture. It's light, it's airy, it has so much flavor from all that carrot and walnut inside, those spices. But then, my friends, with the frosting on top and the crunch of those walnuts, it is so decadent, like insanely delicious. I'm so glad we did this. For my lifetime of carrot cake eating, I have wanted to really make it my own and get rid of the things I didn't love and highlight the things I did. And we have done it together today. I'm going to tell you, this is a fabulous snacking cake. It's a fabulous birthday cake. It is a fabulous cupcake. It's a fabulous anytime cake. What's up, Doc? It's carrot cake season.